These MAGA Republican Congress members and senators are losing their mind on TV as they tried to justify the unjustifiable, what took place in South Minneapolis, and also Donald Trump's continuing to say that he wants to invade Greenland. Let me just show you what these MAGA Republicans are doing. You have MAGA Republican Congress member Randy Fine on state regime media this morning. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
These ICE agents, the left believes they can do anything they want, and we're just supposed to sit down and take it. It's time for Americans to say enough, and if you get in the way of the government repelling a foreign invasion, you're going to end up just like that lady did yesterday.
All right, Florida Congressman Randy Fine.
I mean, where do they find these people? I mean, for real. I mean, this MAGA Republican Randy Fine saying, if you get in the way of a government repelling an invasion, we're going to kill you. I mean, that quite literally seems out of Nazi Germany right there. That seems out of Mussolini's Italy right here. Then you've got a MAGA Republican Katie Britt, senator. Here's what she says. This is what America voted for. We voted for killing United States citizens after the government invades states on false pretext. Play this clip.
But the rhetoric like that from the minority leader in the House is absolutely ridiculous. Let's make sure that we are talking about our law enforcement officers being there to keep us safe. Let's not incite other people to behave like this and put people in harm's way, both our officers and American citizens.
Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's got to stop. Look, the president has made it very clear. He is going to secure our border. He is going to do everything he can to keep America safe. He is going to enforce the laws that are on the books. And if you don't like the laws that are on the books, then change them. This is what we're doing. This is what America voted for on November 5th, was to say, like, let's have a safer and more secure homeland, not vilify.
America did not vote for the federal government to invade states and to round up people who aren't criminals and terrorize and torture communities. Americans want more affordable things, which Donald Trump is not delivering on either. Then you have, just going on the Greenland topic, MAGA Republican Senator Eric Schmidt, and here he says, yeah, we should be invading it. Let's take it over. It's ours. Here, play this clip.
Did Greenland come up at all, sir? Did Greenland come up at all?
Not in.
Do you have a personal opinion on that? Are you concerned about military action in Greenland?
I personally think that we ought to be active in pursuing Greenland. Absolutely. I think if you acquiring Greenland is be my support. I would support that 100%. That's not what anybody's talking about. First of all, Denmark's claims are nebulous. People sort of skip over that page in history of their claims to Greenland. But I would fully be supportive of Greenland being a much more integral partner of the United States of America.
Think about talking about Denmark like that, a longtime ally of the United States. More deaths per capita of people in Denmark fighting alongside America in war than basically anybody's, whether it was wars in Afghanistan and Iraq or even going back to World War II. I mean, just what a horrific way to treat an ally. I want to bring in Democratic Congressman James Walkinshaw to try to make sense of all of this. You know, so you had your MAGA Republican Congress members basically immediately yesterday, as soon as this murder, it's what I believe it was, a murder taking place of Renee Nicole Good take place, they immediately started defaming her. They called her a domestic terrorist. They said she used her car as a terroristic weapon. What was your response when, I mean, obviously to what happened, but then to see that the MAGA Republicans they can't even look at the video we've all saw and describe an objective truth?
Yeah, look, I think the video is clear, man. It was cold-blooded. She's clearly trying to turn the wheel in the other direction, go around the officer. He shoots her from the front, shoots her from the side. It is absolutely outrageous and despicable. It's a violation. You know, DHS does have use of force policies, like they're written down, but a lot of these guys have been undertrained, right? They're trying to churn out new agents so quickly that they're not even training them. The recruitment standards have been lowered. The whole thing is just ridiculous and outrageous. And, you know, my thoughts are with the family and the loved ones and the community of the woman who was killed by her own government. And look, with respect to the MAGA members of Congress that you just highlighted, it's like, I think they woke up on January 1st and their New Year's resolution was to be more batshit crazy than they were last year. To hear some of the things that they are saying, they've been like infected with a Donald Trump mind virus. A responsible thing to do here after this shooting is to say we need to investigate the circumstances. We need to review our policies. We need to review our training. We need to pursue charges against the officer. If that's what the investigation concludes, a responsible government would do those things. But that's not the government we have with Donald Trump. That's just not the government we have.
When you and I last spoke, you had to run because you were conducting oversight, or thought you would be conducting oversight, of Kristi Noem. You were able to ask her questions and you were able to cross-examine her and got a lot of great information. But then right around that time, shortly thereafter, she came up with an excuse. She said she had to go meet with a FEMA board, which we then knew was false. She never met with that board. And she just ran out of the hearing and then kind of walked out, and the other Democrats weren't able to ask questions. But one of the things that you were able to ask her about, and now we're learning more about it as well, are these self-dealing to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars that she seems to be doing with friends and other people who are involved in the Department of Homeland Security. Like we've seen this photo right here of Tricia McLaughlin. It's one of the top DHS officials. We see her spewing all the Trump propaganda on the various state regime media channels that exist right now. But her husband, apparently, in your investigation has uncovered, is the beneficiary of hundreds of millions of dollars potentially in monies going from the taxpayer dollars to fund this lavish lifestyle of private jets. And so what do we know about that as well?
Yeah, let me break it down. So you probably remember the Kristi Noem advertising campaign, $220 million for DHS to run commercials, including on the Super Bowl. And most of the commercials are like Kristi Noem on horseback, Kristi Noem in different settings, looking maybe in her view presidential, not in my view presidential, but clearly ads to set her up to run for president, funded by the taxpayers, $220 million. Now, a big chunk of that was funneled to a secret Delaware shell company that had just been created for this purpose to receive a big chunk of that $220 million. We later learned a big chunk of that ended up in the pockets of a political firm run by the husband of Tricia McLaughlin, Secretary Noem's chief spokesperson at DHS. So Kristi Noem is taking hundreds of millions of dollars that belong to the taxpayers, using it to air television ads to promote herself, and funneling the money to her friends and allies to, as it seems, fly on private jets. So the American people get higher healthcare costs, higher grocery costs, higher utility bills, and the Trump folks are flying on private jets and building themselves golden ballrooms at the White House.
And that's when Donald Trump announces $1.5 trillion that he wants to go to military spending, up from $900 billion to then $1 trillion to then $1.5 trillion in a matter of 3 social media posts over the course of a 30-day period. Americans who are seeing their Affordable Care Act subsidies ripped away, while Donald Trump immediately talks about subsidizing oil companies in Venezuela to the tune of $100 billion, or giving $40 billion to Argentina. And then when you see a $1.5 trillion military Pentagon budget, which Trump and Hegseth want, and we know a lot of that money is going to go to people like hypothetically like the McLaughlins, husbands of the world, to enrich themselves. American people are so disenchanted. I mean, I think that's the corruption has gone rampant, but they've accelerated in 2026. I think as they see the midterms, they're like, we got to just grab everything that we can right now while we can.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And, in terms of Venezuela and the military spending, we've been pressing, Democrats in Congress have been pressing Hegseth and Rubio in the White House to just tell us, how much has this thing cost already, right? How much has the massive deployment of U.S. military into that region cost? How much did the operation cost? and they've refused to provide those answers. They also haven't laid out how much this next phase will cost. How much is it going to cost to, quote, run Venezuela? How much is it going to cost to try to get the oil industry in Venezuela back up and running so Donald Trump's buddies at the oil companies can profit off of it? How much are the taxpayers going to spend for all of this as their healthcare premiums are skyrocketing, as their grocery costs are skyrocketing? Trump administration refuses to answer those questions.
Whenever you and I speak, I like to get your perspective just about the mood on the Hill, given that you're a former chief of staff on Capitol Hill and you really worked your way up in the Hills. I interned on the Hill, so I never made it to chief of staff. I made it to Capitol Hill.
One day.
I made it to Capitol Hill tour guide, and I could tell you about the apotheosis of George Washington. But as people have returned now, what's the vibe? I mean, what are you seeing amongst the people? Because I know, while those MAGA Republican politicians are out there saying what they're saying, the staffers talk, and you probably have some. Well, what's the vibe with invasions and Greenland and all this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's there's a clear divide in terms of the mood. I think Democrats in Congress, and as you mentioned, I've been working on the Hill for almost 15 years now. Democrats are as unified as I have seen us in that time. I think we feel like we're on the right side of the issues, not just from a policy perspective, but from a political perspective. And Trump and the Republicans continue to, make mistake after mistake after mistake. So, Democrats are outraged and frustrated on a daily basis with what Trump is doing, the insanity of decision after decision after decision, but also unified and resolved in fighting back. I can tell you the Republicans are in absolute, utter chaos behind the scenes and sometimes in front of the scenes, right? I mean, you see the exit of Marjorie Taylor Greene, going out in a ball of fire, just trying to burn the Republicans down on her way out the door. We saw yesterday they struggled to pass a simple procedural vote because they had a revolt within their own ranks. So they are really struggling behind the scenes and fractured behind the scenes. And this is one thing I've been pointing out to folks is I think we're starting to see in real time congressional Republicans figuring out. It's taken them a long time to figure this out. But Donald Trump doesn't give a damn about them. He doesn't care about their policy priorities. He doesn't care about their political futures. Donald Trump cares about Donald Trump. So he's throwing them under the bus left, right, and center. They're slowly starting to figure that out. And I think they're crashing out because that's throwing them off so much. They don't know what to do with that.
Well, and then they're involved in covering up a child sex trafficking ring now. So they've been brought into now as covering up the Epstein files. And so,
That's right.
We always want to at least bring that up on an interview. Congressman, we appreciate you for joining us. Please come back. Keep us updated on what's happening on the Hill. We appreciate the great work you're doing in Virginia and for the rest of the country.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.